Yeah, so the MAA is here for everyone to ask any question they want. Obviously, certain questions won't be answered, like, exactly what you would expect. If there's going to be any sort of like, surprise, unrevealed features being talked about during this MAA. But we could, Baho is one of the lead game designers, so he can also talk about like their vision for the future. More than what we've talked about in the past couple of blog posts on Steam. Obviously, you've all seen the roadmap so far. You know that to expect like some more fusionable elements, right? With the ice that came out with the full launch, and then later on, without particular order, we should have lava, swamp, and storm as well. I could just so for those of you that don't want to ask questions or they want to ask questions in another language, for example, we can support Turkish, English, French at the moment, Spanish as well, just in case. So feel free to ask them in the chat if you don't want to talk with the mic as well, and we'll answer these as well. In the meantime, I'll let Baho introduce himself a little bit more, and what was in his way the inspiration for making this game to start with.
Hello. So, right now, this is Nazih and Sarar from the team, and Kamer. We talked with Kamer a lot. He's been with the development team for like months now. So be spawner. Any questions? Just send them my way, and I'll answer them. I'm reading the chat, by the way. I can see you typing. Hi, hello. You can ask any questions you want. I'll answer your questions. And let's see if anyone else joins in the meantime. If they don't, it's fine. If they do, I'll answer their questions as well. Also, let me tell you what I do so your questions can be targeted a little better. So I kinda do project management inside in the development. So I know what everyone's doing, but my main job is balance and game design. Like I design the characters you play, like 70% of them. What they do, not how they look. What they do, and I also balance them. And I also design the upgrades. But I can answer any question you want.
So while we wait for the first question from B, what can you tell us, like roughly, what is the main design aspect that you focus on when implementing, the gameplay mechanic behind a certain Cosmium? Is it based on what's already out there about synergy, or any sort of like specific guideline that you follow internally?
Now, good. So, nice question. First of all, when I'm designing a Cosmion, first thing I look at is need. What does the game need? So, for example, we just brought a Cosmion today, the Salt guy. So the game needed a counter for ice. Because it is very strong. It is like, no doubt, really strong. And it should be strong, but some people just wanted to counter it. Just like you can counter another Cosmion, another build. So we brought Salt Guy. The second one is Feel Good. Which is the Duopon evolution that we brought today. So it's two Duopons fused together that make a Quopon. So Duopon needed to be nerfed multiple times because it was just too strong for many builds. But also nature builds just used it no matter what, because it's a defender, it's nature, you can link it with a lot of things. Like even if Duopon gave nothing, like it just said this thing does nothing, nature builds would use Duopon. But this is not what I want. What I want is for Duopon to be pickable for almost all builds early game. And in the late game, I want nature builds to play it. So I nerfed it to a point where I'm comfortable, where its pick rate has gone down a bunch. And now I brought the evolution to it, so nature builds don't feel very bad when they are still using a duopon variant in the very late game. And the third way I design a character is fun. And it's the Petor we brought this week as well. So like the 3 units I brought this week, they all had different purposes. And that one is just, it can bring a new build. So it's a very strong Cosmion, attacker Cosmion. It has a bunch of damage built in. It absorbs 1 zap and its damage, and it also gains even extra damage on top of that. And it has reduced energy consumption compared to Pedro, and you can actually build it in the second round. So if I build a Petor in the second round, what I can do is I can either build a bunch of Tigers and go late game, if that's what I want. Or what I can do is I can play around Petor. So this is how I add units. But when designing units first, it's about elements. I choose element. For example, I'm designing Swamp right now, right? Swamp is finished. I'm designing Lava. First of all, what I do is I pick a gimmick. What hole is this going to fill? Why are people going to play this element? Why is this going to be fun? I choose that. After that, I try to build effects. What effect does this element need? This element needs an attacker that deals lava burn every hit. This element needs a defender that gives lava coat on start and some shield. After I write out necessary effects for an element, then I start to think how will this element look? I talk with the artist a little bit, I talk with the other game designer, and then we come up with a look, and then I mix match the units with the effects. After that, it's just balancing and then filling the gaps. And finally, the first loop that I talked about, looking and thinking about the missing pieces and then filling those missing pieces.
It's basically trying to mind listening closely while I ask question. Of course. I mean, that's the whole premise. We figured like we would introduce certain like give certain tips and give certain answers preemptively, right? So that we give the space for everyone to type their question. But anything that might pop out in terms of game design or how in terms of like the next plan, what potential feature you might, because we've had a lot of good suggestion, especially in our suggestion forum on Discord, a lot of good ideas. I think some of them aren't gonna be applied as is, but they will sort of be merged or swallowed within another version of Bahos team's design. Let's see, B asking.
Yeah, it's fine. I did a bunch of things today and I like cleared my schedule for now, so like just feel free.
Yeah. It's a little distinct from balance, but I'm a big fan of the visual Cosmions design. Do you have any concept art of any of them? We
good
do.
question.
Yeah, we do.
Actually,
I think. Yeah, we shared a couple of them. I think, right?
yeah, but I would not call them concept art because the reason for that is concept art is an art that you draw before you do your original drawing to give you a sense of concept. But what we do is like our drawings are sketches because what we do, our drawings are concept arts in themselves actually. Like for another game, these drawings would be concept arts because they are just 2D poses.
Right.
And what our artist does is, let me talk about the art procedure so you can understand it better. We choose element, we choose the element colors together. After that, I say, okay, this, for example, for fire, what I say to our artist is, okay, what I need for, let's go with ice. I said, okay, I'm going to have a triple evolution Cosmion. The first one is going to be an ice cube. I don't care what the second one is. It just needs to be like 4 sizes big. And the last one is going to be an ice giant. Just make it like 3 height, 3 cell height, 2 cell width. And then I say like I need an ice dragon. It needs to be like 4 size. You can do between 5 and you can do 5, 6 if it's going to look good. However you like to. And then I'm going to need like the fusions are usually easier. Like I need an Sugeko but an ice one. I need a Cemil but an ice one. Do we have another original ice design?
So it's almost like the other way around, right? Like instead of doing a design, or at least instead of doing the gameplay design after the character was like, let's say, designed, right, and visually, you do the other way around. You adapt based on like the core idea of the needs, right?
I'm not sure if I understood 100%, so I'm not going to say like yes right away. Can you like repeat it?
No, it's more like you have a Cosmian design that you know that you want to establish, right? Like you want an ice cube, so instead of doing the other way around, like most other let's say monster tamer game, right, where usually you design like visually, you ask for, you know what you want like, for example, I don't know, a turtle that turns into a bigger turtle and another turtle, wink wink, an iconic turtle monster. But in your case, you already have the idea of what kind of flow you want, right? So like the triple. So it's more about like, we know what we want, we know what they're gonna have in terms of let's say trigger or conditional trigger, etc. So
Exactly.
now, now the designer is kind of deciphering what would visually look best for these abilities and these sort of theme.
Exactly. You know what, Beast Spawner? Our concept art is me and the other game designers' words. Actually, we say like this is going to be a 3 cell height, 1 cell width matte stick, and it's going to have eyes, and it's like going to look confident. This is what we say. This is the concept art. And then the artist goes, draws, sketches come. Sometimes we don't like the pose, sometimes we don't like how it looks, sometimes we say okay, try something else, but most of the time we say okay, this looks great. And then she goes, finalizes it, and then most of the time we have no other feedbacks because she is really amazing. One funny feedback we had with the Ice Cosmions was the naming is after the drawings because we name by looks. What we do is we draw by effect, then we name by looks. So my game design documents look like this at first, like matchstick guy. Like Zippo. I just wrote down Zippo. Its name is different now. And then I write like Fire Dragon. Like the Fire Boxer. Stuff like that. This is how my things look at start. And then what happens is, like these guys were, I said like Fire Dog, Two-Headed Fire Dog, and Cerberus Dog. These were their names at start. And then our artist draws it. And then we name it. And with the ice, what happened was...
you went on a hip-hop...
She drew it. And then I looked and I said, okay, what should we name this? Okay, Ice Cube. Wait, that's a rapper. And then what we were going to name the dragon Blink Chilling. That's okay. What if we just called the nameless ice thing in the middle Blink Chilling? And the Ice Cube is also a rapper, and then we call the big guy Notorious ICE from Notorious B.I.G. and then we give them all golden necklaces.
And that was it. Yeah, the golden necklace I remember came in later on after they were designed.
Yeah,
To fit,
it
just to
came like
fit
2 days
with,
before release,
yeah,
like
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
So yeah, the visual Cosmian design is very, uh, let's say, is very, the way they look is fully on the artist, but their concept art is our words. This is the answer to your question, actually. Yeah, most of these guys, we just tell them how they, for example, water, because I made water like complete by myself. Like I remember the shark guy, I said, make a shark, a little cyberpunk, give it piercings. And like it's exactly what happened. Like the thing that came was exactly what I wanted. And like I said, okay, a crocodile, make it look menacing, maybe like a weapon on its tail. And with the same thing with the Rico, the guy with the rain color, the common water guy who applies rain. I said a fish guy who looks up
Yeah.
in the rain, and that's what came.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of evolution names that are also quite iconic. I mean, they all have like a certain hidden, right? Like Yerkut, obviously is Turkey backward, which kind of is a sort of a homage to
yeah,
where most of the developers are from as well.
yeah. But Yekrut is actually like, I don't know, for some reason it does fit him. It. Oh,
Because I think it's the weight of the letters and the phonetics, so it gives like this sort of regal, royal kind of naming, right? And I
yeah.
mean, it is one of your national birds as well, right?
By the way, I hate reverse namings in this game. Those were like I didn't what do you say? I didn't approve any of them. I don't like it. I don't like Noklaf. I don't like Drip. I don't like Yakrut. Yakrut is maybe the only one I kind of like, but like I just don't like we had a lot of reverse namings. Like Agekus, it
That's
was
true.
Pegasus backwards. And then I said, okay, no, this one is not going to stay. It was like Susagep. And I said, okay, this one's not going to stay. Like we
It
had
needs
like a
it needs to
bunch of
have it
reverse
needs to
ones.
have a nice tone to it as well. Like, and it's not so difficult to pronounce.
But with ice, I think we got better with namings
Yeah.
because ice names are much better. Like the Cairo Sigoko is a very boring one, but like Fubuki, Ikatis, Chatelaine,
Yeah, Chatelaine.
Nicola Zero, it's like Coca-Cola Zero. That's our joke. We had a lot Iswasal, we had a lot of fun there.
Uh, And in terms of, because I'm sure, like, especially people like Swapco, that is in here. How does the process work for balancing in general, like at a first sight, without going so much into details, right? Like, how does that work for you and the team to balance better, let's say, both Cosmiums and also upgrades in certain aspect.
To be honest, balance is all me. So if balance is bad, it's me. If it's good, it's me. If, like, for example, there is no balance patches in this patch. That's for two reasons. Because one, we were doing something else and it required my attention too. And two, I got sick on the days I was going to do balance. Which, like, I got very badly sick. I was bedridden for 2 days. And I was like, I checked the data on the last day. And I looked, there was no big outliers. And I said, okay, this patch, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just no balance needed, you know? Because sometimes, okay, let's go back to how balance works. There are three main metrics. No, not three main metrics. Three main points I look, and each have their own metrics. First point, I go and play the game. Some things are so obvious that you can see it the second you play the game. For example, Baby Dragon evolving into Bragoon very easily, and Bragoon is very strong. So, okay, let's keep playing the game a little bit behind. First thing, numerical balance. The game has a numerical balance. Every point of damage per second for attackers is worth 1 coin. So, Cemil, this water guy, the fish guy, let me calculate his damage per second by cost in 1 second. Okay, so it deals whatever, 21 divided by 3, 7 damage per second. And guess how much he cost? 7 coin. And he has no effects. This is the baseline. If you have no effects, you deal 1 damage per 1 second for 1 gold, 1 coin. As your effects get stronger, you get stronger. Champion units, Cosmions, like the Water Dragon or other ramping up characters like Yogan or the Fire guys, Cinder Joe, Yogan. How I calculated them was I made a good fire build, a player who was playing them, and that player had a decent build. And for that build, I wanted these units to be worth their gold at second 10. At like 10 seconds in the battle. So after 10 seconds, they get better. If your build is more efficient, they get better. If you have a bad build, they might never get efficient. So this is the numerical balance of the game. The shield and heal has a very complicated numerical balance, which I'm not going to get into, but there is also a numerical balance there. Second thing, I look at the data, of course. Some units are played insanely much. Duopon was the number 1 played unit for 3 patches, and I nerfed Duopon every single patch. And this patch is the first patch. It's not the number 1 most used unit in 15 win boards. Like in late game, not early game. In the late game, it is the most used unit. Some things are just outliers. They are never played, like the Water Wave Astral character. It just wasn't worth. And when you came there, you just had to remove stuff which you didn't want to. I look at the data, and finally I play the game. I talk to the players. I talk to a lot of players. I'm so active in Discord. I read every Steam discussion. We talk with the testers, like Kamer is here. I talk with the players. I get their opinion, and the testers and all the players are very attentive. And I weigh all these between each other, and I do changes. Even if something is completely balanced, if the game is someday completely balanced, I will change things the other day. Because, that's how competitive games stay alive.
Yeah. We have
There's a lot more I can talk, but if I start, it will go even more. But this is the
essence.
Basics.
Yeah. There's a question from Swapco about the visual design of Cosmion. I like how he's talking that everything in this game is a dork, right? So kind of a almost like a goof or a parody of certain aspect, right? I mean, that's not in a negative sense, right? But his question is how do we go about by making sure that the type of the Cosmions kind of scream visually, right? That attackers really look like an attacker, and that a caster looks like a caster, and then obviously a defender looks more like a defender. I'm not sure, how does that work for Sue? Because I'm pretty sure you're very much into this as well, Baho.
Yeah, we just say that those guys should look like attackers, and hope they do. For art, I don't know. I think for most of the time, she did a very good job. The things that deal damage, they look like they are going to deal damage. And things that don't deal damage, most of them look like they do something else. For example, Ingram Manu, they do look like defenders. By the way, we do tell her, we need 2 hands. They are going to look like they are stopping things. like they are going to give shields, she knows the game.
Yeah.
We tell her what the unit is going to do. So she's not completely blind. She knows what she is doing completely. So I think she relays it pretty well. Like, I don't think I'm the best person to make this comment because I know what every single unit does. For example, Kikiaon, the unique Cosmion you get from the upgrade, the air upgrade, it looks a lot like an attacker. We are aware of this. It looks so much like an attacker. I think I'm going to rework it to be an attacker. Like, that's how much it looks like an attacker. So we had this problem before. What Swapko had. And Kikiaon was the biggest offender. But most of the time, I think Su does a good job, and I think the reason for that is because she knows the game and she is a competent person in her job.
Yeah.
But yeah, Swapko is 100% right. A game where you play with things that are in real life, it's so much more easier. It's just weapons and foods. It's just so much more intuitive. It's a lot harder to get into our game. That's a fact, I think.
Yeah.
Because there is also the issue with names. I think Celerity said this. Celerity said, like, I think you need less special names. For example, like, no one can know what Voltrex does without reading Voltrex and like learning and knowing it. But you know what a sword does. You know what a shield does. You know what a leather jacket does. You know what a banana does. Like, you, even if you don't know what a banana does, once you read it, you can say, I need a banana. It's very much harder to say, I need a pop-up.
Yeah.
Because you need to remember the pop-up. You need to like learn pop-up. But what we did was we sacrificed a little bit understanding and a little bit intuition for cool names like Grimjaws.
Yeah.
Cool names, identity, and like we do not think of like letting this. We don't have any plans right now, just to say this, but we are not looking for letting this universe be one and done with Neoduel, probably. We have a lot of crazy designs. Not in the near future, not in the mid future. I don't know if there's a word for that, but maybe in the far future. This is why we have the flavor text. This is why we hover over every single Cosmion. We try to make them consistent inside the elements. Dora even wrote a story for the game. He's a Turkish YouTuber. Our founder is also a Turkish YouTuber, and he actually like talks about his story in his YouTube video. I think we are going to make the story public, but we just haven't written it down in English in the right way yet. Like, we want the story to be written well. So yeah, this is not a very near future thing. So this is not a leak or something like that. This is just one of our plans, and this is like very obvious. I think
we kind of, I think we also kind of like spoke about it as well. Like the fact that like that was the whole point of the adding the flavor text, right? Was just to establish a sort of a early touch on the lore, right? Like, because some people, that's what they like, right? I mean, in other especially in other let's say monster tamer games, it's the same vibe, right? You want to connect with certain monster and understand, like, so you're always trying to project like what might they be in real life, right? Which we've kind of like played around when doing the design on the trailer, right? And like, how do we want to project, like, what does an arena looks like, and if it was outside of this backpack environment, right? But yeah. Is there another question? Yeah, so just to mention, we're recording all this as well. So just in case, we might just host it as an unlisted link somewhere on YouTube. So that way you can, those that missed it, can also listen to some of the of the chat, or maybe we'll transcribe it and turn it into a blog. But we'll talk about it. A question about balance. What do you think about Saprion and fellow Cosmions that work with Spike? I don't think it's enough efficiency from Spike build. They're too specific. Especially if the opponent doesn't play an attacker build, it's pretty much over. Even those shield trees get used by quickness builds mostly. Personally, I think we need a late game Cosmion that scale with Spike. Like a Spike Rhino. What do you think, Bo?
First of all, I really like the Spike Rhino idea. Like, let me just say this. I think Spike only has one viable late game carry, and that's Saprion.
Yeah.
And one, it is not insanely strong. It is very strong, first of all, but it is not. It's an epic unit, so like an astral unit that you can roll. A Spike Rhino, I actually like it. I might use it because we don't have a Rhino. Like, why do we not have a Rhino in the game?
There you go.
And even the Swamp doesn't have a Rhino. Like, I don't know why. So Spike Rhino does sound very fun, but first of all, almost every single build in the game uses attackers. Most of the build games. The game is centered around the attackers. A lot of buffs and debuffs affect attackers. This is not going to be the case when Swamp comes. Swamp is going to be a very mini rework to the game. And Swamp is actually going to make Spike weaker. First of all, right now I think Spike is not that weak. You might not get efficiency, but when I look at the Saprion win rates, it's really good. When I play Saprion, I feel good. Yes, there are some builds that when you look, it feels like you're obviously stronger. But what happens is that's not how you feel when you lose the weaker looking build. But Spike is a build that is very heavy counters to some builds, and it is very heavy counterable as well. So I think the way that Spike, not Swamp, Spike. So I think Spike is in a healthy position. Maybe I'm going to buff the Monoflow, Triflow just a little bit because I think those units were over nerfed in the past. I think I'm thinking of giving them like nerf, reducing the price by 1. I was going to do it this patch, but that was going to be the only balance patch, which I did not want to. Because I think Monoflow is the weakest nature build, and the data actually supports it as well. So other than buffing the Monoflow just a little bit, I think Spike's builds are fine, but I am going to give them some love with the Swamp update, because they will be nerfed due to other circumstances. And Spike Rhino is very fun idea. I think I will bring it.
Rhino shield, Spike Rhino, yeah. I'm trying to think about a fun design. I saw Swapgo was about to drop something, but yeah, I see both B and Kamer are both writing up questions. And most probably will get hit by a lava update.
I think lava update does not hit Spike that hard. I think it hits the other nature build harder. Because Swamp is bringing a new buff called Lava Coat, which will stop you getting hit by a debuff. So it is going to hit burn very hard. It's going to hit acid very hard. It's going to Lava Coat is going to bring down a lot of build strength.
A lot of the elemental like stacking damage kind of.
Yeah,
like
but
flow,
Spike does not apply any debuffs, and Spike doesn't heal a lot too. It shields itself a little, and it deals damage back. So I think Spike is fine with lava. Yeah. So like with elements, mixed elements. Since I talked about Swamp a little bit, let me talk about it just a little bit
what's
more.
the keyword about Swamp? Yeah.
So Swamp is not going to Swamp won't be bringing anything new, but right now there are very few ways in the game to acquire rain and clumsy, like apply rain and clumsy. Swamp is going to be about applying rain and clumsy. It's about slowing down your opponent. And Swamp update is actually going to change a little game mechanic. It's going to remove attackers from getting affected by haste and clumsy. So attackers are not going to be sped up or slowed down by haste or clumsy. Clumsy is only going to affect casters and defenders. Clumsy and haste. The reason for that is you have fog to counter attackers. You have rain to counter attackers. You have strengthen to buff attackers. You have clarity to buff attackers. You can give damage to buff attackers. You can get energized to put more attackers. A lot of things are around attackers in the game. And it is very difficult to do a pure caster build, or even if you do make a caster build, like a Hushan focused fire build, or a full water build, then there's nothing to counter you.
Yep.
Counter you specifically, actually. So what we are going to do is we are going to make rain and clumsy abundant in the game. Not abundant, but much easily accessible.
Yeah.
And while doing that, we are going to make it so people can make the informed decision to like play attacker focused or caster focused build instead of just playing the meta build and like putting the strong casters and attackers together.
For the time being, there's no way
Yeah.
to apply clumsy other than one water upgrade. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
clumsy is something I scraped and I put down into the Swamp update, but we had the upgrade already. The clumsy. What was it? I don't remember the name of it. So I just said, okay, let's just keep clumsy in the game. Why not? It's just going to be applied like 4 times in 1 hour.
I mean, it's also why there is one instance of us seeing like a little bit of the lava quoting as well, right? Or not lava,
The lava burn, yeah.
lava burn
Same
as well
thing.
is showing. Yeah, those are
Same
like
thing.
sometimes little misfits that just sneaked in.
Yeah, they weren't intentionally misfits, but the decision to not remove them, yeah, it was. Yeah, slippery ground. The upgrade is called slippery ground.
Yep, slippery grounds. Yes, inflict clumsy to the opponent based on your water Cosmion count. It sounds like yeah. It sounds like
Oh, please read it. Yeah, sorry.
yeah. It sounds like you have a lot of interesting data on the specific of how different builds and even individual Cosmion. Do you plan on making feature where player can see some of it as a graph or two of some sort?
That's my bad that you haven't seen any. Let me say
Yeah.
that. So, what happens is the data is very, very difficult to read. What we do is we do not have a counter. We didn't set up any data readers. What we get is pure raw data. What we get is your games. So you press play, you play against a board. I see your board, I see the board you played against as a comma separated values document.
Yeah, CSV.
So every
for
single
sure.
Cosmion has an ID and they are in a line. What I do is I use Python to data mine that to get myself how many times every single unit is used. Like I filter the builds that are getting 15 wins. Then I check those, the most used, the minimum used. I check upgrades, how many are picked. So it takes a long time. And I could have automated it, but I do not have the skill level for that yet. And I'm just like looking at it myself. Sarah and Nazi asked me for data bunch of times, like readable, so they can share. I did not give it to them, but I will. I will. The thing is, like, I do not visualize it. I don't even clean it up. Like, I look, I make my decisions, I go to another query. I sometimes don't even record the datas. But I should. It's because we are not a big team, but that is not a no excuse. I should be better at data usage and visualization.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will be better.
I mean, in general, it's like it is to be expected, right? When that's the expectation of a more independent development versus larger scale, triple A, double A, like game mechanic. Like you have the bandwidth of having the luxury of having a bunch of engineers that can do that on the side and just crunch data and come up with relevant discussion point. But I think like in the case of Baho's team being a smaller team and him anyway being in charge of doing all the balancing, it makes more sense for him to have his own ways rather than to try to make it more accessible for everyone else. So here's Swapco. And here's also, just as a quick call, it's our 15-minute mark before the end of the MAA. So one of my favorite changes during beta was the Dragon update. System gave you very consistent access to build linchpins. Yep, it was I think our first archetype in the sense, right? That was introduced in one.
Yes, we can say that.
Yeah. Stacking Hushans, and I like to ask about Xeron and Earth in specific because it's the element that I constantly feel is, I guess Earth more like nature specific. Xeron is actually kind of hard to scale for Earth, heals a lot early, but it needs several trees to get shielding unless you have related augments. Doesn't help that Earth Mira doesn't really pull you in either. And I've appreciated the value of splashing a toxic lewd or even epic essences for an ounce of acid, but it feels like Earth, or nature in this case, ask you to go all in, but all of their pieces do it different ways, unlike every other elements. How does the data looks for nature, and what do you feel are its draws as a build? That's a good question, because I think like me personally, nature was the only thing that I clicked the most with, but I get what he means. Like it doesn't specifically plays the same way as you would expect from like fire builds or electric builds in general.
All right, so he has very valid points. First of all, let's start where I dropped the ball. I made a mistake when I made nature have 3 different builds. So, when you look at the game, you can see that almost every element has 2 builds. Electricity have Energize and Electrocute. Electrocute is kind of dead because it is not very fun to play against. I will buff it sometime, but not soon. Fire has Burn Stacking and Fire Fist. Flow has Flow using and flow generating and using with like Stratwall, Maxios, Rico, or you just stack by a bunch of flow and put Aquality. Air has a bunch of different builds. It's like a more supportive element, and like you can just play as for one shots. And then we come to nature. The problem with nature is I put 3 different play styles into one element: spike, acid, and shield generation. What this made is I tried to also give the same amount of units to every element, but this also, like nature also has the most units, but it's still not really enough. Because let's look at nature units. For acid, we have Nature Mira, Ansham, Bumsit, and that's it. You can maybe talk about Mice Toad, but like that's basically it. But acid is one of the most popular builds in the game. Interesting. Spike has Monofloa, Hercuvine, and Seppi evolutions. And for shields, we have Florimite,
The
Abatrion, the
yeah.
tree guy, and then Ziran, and then Verdant Claw. And finally, we have regeneration in the form of Duopon and Luebel. So it also even has Regen. Like Regen shields, it's the same build. It's the survivability build. So first of all, there's that problem. I am going to solve this problem by bringing a couple more units into nature. But I'm just not sure how the game is going to react. What I'm thinking is removing the Abatis from nature to neutral. And then
Okay.
Abatrion is going to stay nature. It's going to stay the same. But since right now, maybe you guys have like caught maybe a glimpse of this game design. Because Abatis can also be made into a fire tree and an ice tree as well.
That's correct, yeah.
So I'm thinking of bringing Abatis to neutral, adding 2 nature units, 1 for acid, 1 for shielding, and maybe 1 for spike as well, 3. And then I'm thinking of solving it this way. That he's right. Second, nature is not really that weak. Actually, its pick rate is number 2 behind fire. And its win rate is, even though not that big, it's not the worst, let's say. And when we come to Ziran, Ziran is very difficult to balance. Because if I lower its shield to damage, it's going to have insane damage. But while you are gaining shields. So every other dragon, yes, you stack other things to make them stronger. But no other thing is as strong as shield is. So if I make it 15, it's just impossibly overpowered. But if I leave it 20, it's weak. What I need to do, I know what I need to do. I need to give it some base damage. But if I give it some base damage, I lose the archetype where every single evolved dragon has
it's
2-4 damage as base.
Yeah.
So I do not want to increase its base damage. I do not want to decrease the recommendation. So actually a buff is planned for Ziran. I'm going to increase the number of links it has. And I'm going to change the link from spike to shield. So what it can do is at least it can give itself some base damage while making it viable for every single nature build. It hurts spike builds just a little bit, but yeah, that's what I'm going to do actually. And I think it's going to solve the Ziran problem.
We have a question from Toprak in the community chat. Will there be any skins for Cosmions?
We do not think Cosmion skins would be the best idea, but we are going to experiment with a couple. We are going to bring cosmetics in the future. Is in the form of backgrounds. We have the character cosmetics, even more character cosmetics, and a name tag. Those are guaranteed. They are going to come.
Yeah.
Cosmion skins, we are very on the fence about.
Yeah. It's also because like, why? Right? Like...
No, I would love Cosmion skins. Like, actually...
I mean...
If I was the player, I would love for like my Machiro to have a little Santa Claus hat and beard at the Christmas and like stuff like that. I would love that, but there's the problem of readability.
Yeah.
You need to be able to, like, if we bring this, we have to bring the option to disable skins for tryhard like for other players. And if players can disable skins, it reduces my want to buy skins.
Exactly.
And we don't know if that's like profitable or like
worth
by
it. Yeah,
I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about like
worth
time,
the effort, from your team.
our time and effort versus the feeling that the people are going to get. But it is not completely out of the picture. But we are very on the fence.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, like any cosmetics will be anyway things that are like purely cosmetics and nothing that would alter like gameplay at the moment or give you some sort of edge. Like that's the most important thing for everyone to
Oh,
know.
we will never. This game will always be completely fair for everyone who has paid the entrance fee.
Yeah.
Let me say this. Like, it will never. We will never give any rewards, either by progression or by dollars, real life dollars, which will give any advantage to any
Yeah.
player anytime. Like, period.
So B has, are we allowed to know anything about how you plan on making the super secret new multiplayer implementation work? We're talking about the...
Yeah, we will probably
Yeah.
announce how it's going to be and its release date end of this month.
Yeah,
But not now.
yeah, not now.
End of this month, you will know, and next month, early next month, it will come.
Yeah,
most likely.
that's what the timeline looks like. Yeah, soon, trademark. So we have just a little shy to 4 minutes. So if there's anything, any last minute questions from anyone here, Codex or Kamer or even B. Can squeeze in a couple more questions, depending on the... Yeah, my idea, I think I was talking about it, like my idea was I would like to have different backpack design, but again, it might just change what it looks like in the shopping section, right? But how do we actually visually show that skin to the other player, right? Because at the moment, the other player only sees like your zones, right?
Yeah. So that the questions, yeah, please read it so people can hear it from the recording.
Do you
if you share.
plan on making any way for the community to suggest your potential Cosmion design? I think we already do that at the moment.
Yes, we do.
So you have the discussion forum under the Neoduel community chat. You can suggest anything, really. Like we've had like some good ideas about Cosmion. We had ideas about like some Cosmions even, let's say, redesign, so like change them to fit something better or what it would. So we've had like a lot of good suggestions that have helped us, that helped Bahu's team decide on when to implement them, maybe change the order of certain update pace. But yeah, that's always the place to go. Anything like that. I remember I had like some silly idea to like do a ode to our own company and try to find like 4 wind or air Cosmiums that would be like the 4 winds, right? So, and we're called the 4 winds, so that would make sense that there's 4 of them and they all merge into like one big air deity or something like that. But anyway.
Oh, we were going to do that. I completely forgot.
I mean,
like, we will still do that.
yeah, we still have time anyway.
Yes, Cloud is perfect for that.
I love having silly ideas. I mean, exactly, and that's the whole point, right? Like we might even, the thing is like, you know, like it's always, I had personally like some bad experience doing these things with the community because like, you know, when you're a big company, right? It's a bit different to do these things because there's the expectation that there's some sort of royalty cut, etc. So a lot of things get rolled in the mix and it becomes a big legal mumbo jumbo. But obviously we're not at that stage, right? We're not a massive show it off company that and on that front.
So with the Cosmion ideas, it can be a visual idea, it can be an effect idea without a visual idea, it can be visual and effect idea together. It can be a rework or a balance suggestion for an existing unit.
Yeah.
It can be an upgrade idea. Anything actually. Yeah, Naji idea was actually Kamer's.
Yeah, Kamer's.
It wasn't assault. It was an antifreeze. His idea was an antifreeze.
Yeah.
But I
Which
did
makes
not.
sense, right?
It didn't make any sense for me to add an end freeze into the game. So what I did was I vaporized Domi and got salt because they salt the grounds. Is there going to be a bio description of all
Well, I
champions?
mean, technically,
There are,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. When you go to the Cosmodex, you'll see that at the bottom, when you hover over a Cosmions, you will see a little flavor text. It's a bit similar to other Monster Tamer game, right? Like, because doing more than that would require, like, effectively, I would, in my personal opinion, and I don't know if Baho would agree with me, but it would need a long, like, sort of a single player adventure mode, right, to kind of tell the story about like what is the world of how did Cosmium come into the world and whatnot. And I think, like, there's so much you can do, right, to add up while consistently, like, keeping up with the sort of a, asynchronous multiplayer aspect of the game.
Yep, I agree. So there's also another question.
Yeah, I
Where
think
did
there was
Cortex
two.
design?
Two questions. There's the Protex design, thanks to one of you or the artist, and then the other one is the seasonal mechanic.
So
I
Protex
remember
design.
Protec. I'll
The
let you tell
visual
the
design
story.
is completely our founder's idea because that dog I think had recently passed away when we
That's
designed
true.
that. So I had no idea, by the way. Our founder came and said, "Okay, let's pay homage."
Yeah.
I have no idea how that word is
Yeah.
pronounced, by the way.
We didn't want to give it the let's say the Bitcoin naming, right, of the
The
meme
name came
coin and
from me.
whatnot. I think, yeah, and so all we could think is, okay, like, it was an homage to this dog, and this dog was a big part of the pop culture, right, meme, let's say,
Yeah,
culture,
he attack.
right?
He
And so, yeah,
uh,
that was it. It was perfect, I think, in that sense, right? Because, like, it's a defender class, right? And so we're like, okay, protect, right? I think that's how you guys came up with the name in the end.
because I am chronically online, the only names I think about are memes. So I said, okay, let's call it Protect. So for seasonal mechanics, every
Effectively, there
single
is. Yeah.
mixed element is going to the codex does have Protect as Stonks dog. Oh, that was the first name.
Yeah, the original
Okay,
name, yeah.
we should change that. Thank you. Uh, for seasonal mechanics, the every single mixed element is going to change how the game is played a little bit. So what Swamp is going to do is it's going to change You Are Not Here. Welcome, by the way. It's going to change Clumsy and Haste. Clumsy and Haste are not going to affect attackers. They're only going to affect defenders and casters, and they are going to be much more available. Haste and Clumsy. Haste and Clumsy. I'm sorry, not Rain. Haste and Clumsy. So attackers are not going to be slowed or sped up by those buffs. That is going to change the balances a little bit, unfortunately for me. Storm is going to bring a new mechanic, and it's going to be a very unique playstyle. I'm not going to talk about right now. And after Storm, uh, Swamp, and Lava, Lava is going to bring a buff. That's it.
Yeah.
After these, we are going to bring a new season. And every new season is going to make you guys experience new mechanics or mechanic changes or reworks. That's our goal. We actually have the mechanic for the first season in mind. But yeah, I'm not going to say that at all.
Still early. Do you think clumsy affecting specifically caster is smart because attacker generally have risk associated to them? Yeah, you can go too fast, and then obviously, yeah, the energy.
Also, the game is very centered around attackers. Attackers are
Yeah.
buffed by strength. They are buffed by haste, clarity,
Yeah.
and
Critical
also
damage. Yeah.
energize. They are nerfed by rain, clumsy, fog.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I wanted to remove at least some things to be targeted only for casters and defenders because there is nothing that targets them. I should have done this from the start, but that's what I'm going to do now. I can stay until like 15 past, but then I'm going to go eat.
Same here. We can, yeah. 10 more minutes.
Guys,
not stop moving.
overall, I really like the game design and balance, though, guys. Not because I did it, but I really like it.
Yeah.
Do you have more Cosmions plans in the next updates? Are you planning new elements?
Yeah.
The new elements, we announced all of them. It's going to be lava, swamp, and storm. It's going to be 99% swamp first. I know it says lava first, but yeah.
we did mention that it wasn't the like specific. Again, everything is subject to change, right? It all depends on the flow, right?
I think this is not subject to change because Sue has already started drawing swamp in Cosmions. But yeah.
But I think maybe he was mentioning if it was core elements, right? Not like fusionable elements, because
new element units. That's what you mean.
I think he means like a core base element. Let's say like something outside of a fusion element, right? Like
not in this season. Not in this season.
Yeah,
in the new season.
Not for the first year. Yeah. As for more Cosmiums, I mean, the aim was like 10 to 15 new Cosmium per new, like let's say themed content drop, right? So like with the lava update, you should have between 10 and 15 new Cosmium. We did the same thing with Ice, and there's 13 Ice Cosmiums as well. And then effectively, it doesn't take into account like other Cosmiums that might get squeezed in, right? Like similar to today, right? Where you had effectively not Ice Cosmiums being added, but a new evolution for Duopon, a fusion for Pedro, and obviously a new neutral character, which was Nasi. I think B had a question, right? She wanted to ask, or they wanted to ask. Sorry, I'm not going to assume.
So right now, the number of Cosmions we have in the game is, it should be like 180. You guys should be aware, every single Cosmion we bring, if it's not a fusion one, it clutters the shop.
That's true.
So, like, if we brought a new element that's not mixed, your experience would be much different and most probably for the worse.
Yeah.
But we are going to bring 1 or 2 new Cosmions. Like I mentioned, I'm thinking of at least bringing 2 natures. And if I pull the tree guy to be neutral, I will bring the air and water fusions of that as well, and electricity. So watch out for that. That is not 100%, but that's not what I'm thinking about. And also we have the mixed elements. When the new season comes, it's going to bring new elements. It's going to bring new stuff. But yeah. For now, this is it. Would electric fire eventually be in the cars? Complete the cycle.
Electric fire. I mean, yeah. It's also like it needs to make sense, right? I mean, I think like the fusionable elements that are already announced kind of make sense, right? Like earth and like nature and water is swamps, like mud, etc. It kind of like plays that whole aspect. Like fire and electricity, the only thing in reality that happens like that in real life is when lightning hits a volcano in eruption, I guess. Would be the closest thing, right?
I don't know, but we have no plans for the mixed elements are these. For the new season, we are thinking about a little bit different version things. You guys will see.
Who is the father of who is the
I have no idea. Ask Dora, our founder.
Like at the essence, all you can understand is that the premise of the lore, and this is not, again, it's not technically our bread and butter to explain that storyline better, but effectively Cosmions is short for sort of cosmic minions, right? And you have to understand that Cosmions came into, like, let's say, a sort of a similar vibe to our real life, right? Like our modern time. And Cosmium came through sort of like cosmic portals, right? Between different dimensions and whatnot. What's the, how do they start? Who brought them in? Who opened the portal the first time? Like these are things that I know that Dora, which is one of the producers of the game, is like working behind and is trying to play. He really wants to play into that whole story and create something that makes sense, right? And isn't like let's say a copycat story of another monster taming game.
Okay. Do you have
Favorite
favorite
Cosmiums? Yeah.
Cosmions? I have a 3D printed model of Tokmak right next to me. So,
That would be
and
the
I
closest
also really
thing.
like Fire Fist as well. But my favorite element to play is water. So that's kind of weird.
I'm not sure which one is my. I think like I like the little squid dude, just because like it reminds me of like I like personally I like water themed anything. I'm a creature of the sea and I like to stay in the sea as much as possible. So I think like in general I don't have a particular like favorite Cosmiums. I think I will always side with the. I personally prefer most of the Cosmium design in the water type versus the rest.
All right. So I think
Where
this was good.
Yeah, this was a good one. And we might also consider doing this more often, let's say on a bi-weekly or maybe on a monthly basis.
I think bi-weekly works for me, like 100%.
Yeah, and that way, but we'll probably do a poll just to also understand like better from the rest of the community what time works better for them, for their own time zone and whatnot, so we can kind of like make it a little bit more, let's say, lively. I know it's pretty okay for Europe, but not that great in Asia, and not. It's still a bit early, and we'll figure out which day works better and which time works better for everyone. But for those of you that joined, there's a last question.
All right, let's make this the last one because we did say 15 past.
Yeah. How are
I'm
you?
fine, actually.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're all good.
I'm chilling like bling chilling.
Chilling like bling chilling. All right, everyone. Well, thank you to everyone that has joined us, and until the next one, we'll also announce it in advance and I'll obviously ask questions. I think some of us now is in the critical time zone of having dinner. So until the next time, you have a good rest of the night, day, or morning, whatever you are in the world. Have a good one. See you.
See you guys.
The legend is here, folks. Get ready for the show of the GOAT. We need to check if your opponent's still in one piece. Hold on tight. This is going to be epic. Duck, duck, goose them right out of the duel. Can you believe it? Let's hear it for our champion!